This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, promoting the free enterprise system to enhance economic competitiveness. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a welcome back to two members of the House of Delegates. I believe this is the third time over the years we've had the opportunity to have you on together. Delegate Jennifer McClellan from Richmond, Delegate Chris Peace from Hanover. Both began serving in the General Assembly in 2006, and we're delighted to have you here. We're going to talk about a variety of issues, but let's start with the one on the War of 1812, and I'm turning to Chris's direction on that, since you chair the advisory committee of the War of 1812 Commission. So we're going to put the logo up on the screen and then tell our viewers a little bit about what's happening here in 2012 and what's coming up.
Right, it's known as the Forgotten War, David, which we're trying to reverse. We're trying to educate as many people about what caused the war, what its legacies are, and it's been a real exciting process. I think a lot of Virginians are familiar with the sesquicentennial activities, which is the 150th commemoration of the American Civil War and Emancipation, but not as many are familiar with the War of 1812, or that we're actually in a bicentennial year this year. We've done a number of things legislatively. We created a heritage trail, and we are systematically putting up state markers around the state, identifying key places, whether of conflict or of personality. We have also created a DMV license plate, so you can show your War of 1812 pride on your vehicle, and the proceeds from that license plate will go towards our commission activities. One of the things on the commission we've been very proud of is that we've done it with limited public investment. We've raised a lot of private funds for activities such as wreath layings at Monroe and Madison graves. We have held a kickoff to the General Assembly session at the Symphony. I had a wonderful turnout of school children from across the state to hear the War of 1812 overture, which actually had nothing to do with the American War of 1812, but you can't not have it at something like that. And we're planning on symposium activities in 2014 to close the bicentennial celebration for teachers and educators across the state. And then this summer was just our hallmark event, and that was Op Sail, where we had the tall ships down at Tidewater, and we were just so happy with the turnout for that event.
Well, thanks for that update, and we'll be staying tuned on through 13 and 14 on this event. Jennifer, if I may turn to you to start some conversation about what's happening here in the month of October. And the two of you being here together, as we said before the show, a Democrat and a Republican, we can certainly talk about the upcoming election if you'd like. And so why don't we even start there, some of your perspectives on that?
Sure. We are sort of in the final stretch of what seems to have been a long campaign season for the presidential election and the Senate race and congressional races. And in the middle of debates and campaign activities, festivals, the last few days to register people to vote. So for people who are not on the ballot, I think Chris and I have been pretty busy during this campaign season.
And members of the General Assembly, it's kind of, I guess in a way, nice not to be on the ballot during that time with all the focus on the up part of the ticket.
Yeah, that's right. It's sometimes it's a lot easier to just focus on getting other people elected.
Right. Chris?
Well, Jennifer's right. This is crunch time. This is a very important time for our country. Virginians will be pivotal and play a pivotal role in deciding who the next president will be. We are a swing state, we're a battleground state, whatever term you want to give us, purple state. We are seeing more and more national influence here in the Commonwealth, which I think is good for the economy here in Virginia because they're spending a lot of money trying to turn out the vote. But Virginians need to understand that their vote is more important than ever. We need people to participate in the process, and we need to show people here in sort of the birthplace of democracy that we care about the future of our country. We're also electing a U.S. Senator to fill a vacant seat for retiring Jim Webb, who's served very admirably for the past 6 years. And we also have some ballot initiatives, which people may not be familiar with. We have a ballot initiative for amending the Virginia Constitution to protect private property rights, and that's question number 1 on the ballot. So if people are interested in who the next president is, who the next U.S. Senator is, or their congressman, certainly the amending of the Virginia Constitution is an important thing as well. So we've got a lot of reasons for people to vote.
And I would add, if that's not enough, in a lot of localities, we have local races. Here in Richmond, we have the mayor, city council, school board. I think there's some other localities that have local races. So lots of things for people to pay attention to, come out and vote. And in the middle of all that, we changed the voter ID requirements. So we're in the process of educating everybody what they need to bring to the polls and what the consequences will be if they don't.
Everyone registered should have received a new voter registration card, and I think that we would encourage anyone who thinks they're registered and hasn't received that card to get in touch with their local registrar.
That's right, and I think the other thing we should encourage everybody to do is check their registration status. We've heard a number of stories of people who think they're registered to vote but have been moved to inactive status, and so everyone should go to the State Board of Elections website. There's a check my status button. Click that. Make sure you are registered. Make sure you know where you're voting, because some people's voting places may have changed. And we're trying to make sure that everybody who can vote does vote.
It seems like 4 years ago the voter turnout in Virginia got close to 80% of registered voters, and why in the world the other 20% doesn't vote baffles me.
Right. Well, you should see it when we're on the ballot. I don't want to take it personally, but it's certainly a pivotal time. And with all of the new procedures in place, I'd also recommend that people maybe take a 10 or 15 minutes extra in their planning when they go to the polls. If there are long lines, be prepared for that. It should get you through efficiently. At the same time, just be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. And if people know in advance that they're not going to be available to get to the polls, they can already be checking on getting an absentee ballot.
That's right.
Or voting in person at their registrar's office.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed on the screen nationally when it talks about states where there's already voting going on, that Virginia is listed.
Yeah, and Iowa in particular. I noticed that a couple weeks ago that Iowa has already started voting for president.
Mm-hmm. So. Yes. Anything else about the elections, or shall we just think about issues that you think will be hot in this upcoming session?
Well, Jennifer, we may cancel our votes here for all of them, maybe, but except for the property rights. But
well, it's good to have the two of your own,
right?
And with the differences that you may have on issues, the cordial agreements that you have in discussing them.
Well, I think, we've heard a lot about that one of the biggest problems in Washington is the fact that the Democrats and Republicans can't seem to even talk to each other. And, I'm happy to say that we're not like that here in Virginia, although there are, I think, moments where we get testy with each other. For the most part, we try to stay cordial and we try to listen to each other. And I think that's why here in Virginia we are able to get things done a little faster than in Washington, with some exceptions.
Right. And as an observer, I would just underscore what you're saying, because unfortunately what people see on the 15-second or 30-second sound bites on the evening news during the session is that time when you've had an intense disagreement between the parties.
It's more interesting to watch, I think, but it is not the majority of what we do.
Right. So we're just 3 months away from the beginning of the next legislative session. Are there issues that you all have been working on personally or with some of your colleagues that you see being presented and discussed and acted on in the 13th session?
Absolutely. I think Jennifer and I have discussed it several times now already, but we're going to see Virginia have the opportunity to weigh in on health care reform after the Supreme Court decision on the Affordable Care Act. Virginia now will have to make a decision on whether to run its own state exchange or some hybrid version or a full federal exchange program here in Virginia for health insurance, as well as whether to expand Medicaid coverage to a particular percentage of poverty. Virginia's Medicaid program is very lean right now, and it serves certain groups of individuals and families. But the proposal allows the states, based on the Supreme Court decision, to expand that coverage to serve more people, which would primarily be single adults. Those decisions are very important from a humanitarian perspective as well as from a budgetary perspective. And right now the economy is better in Virginia than it is in a lot of other states. We're still in the top 5 states for business, best state to earn a living, best state to raise a family. However, it's still not where we want it to be. With unemployment in Virginia being the lowest in the Southeast is very good for the future, even in the short term, and also shows that our revenues are increasing from a tax basis. Yet we still face major challenges with meeting all of the needs that we have in terms of revenue, whether it be health care, Medicaid in particular, which is one of the largest drivers of the budget, aid to localities and educational funding, and probably what will be the second biggest issue other than health care this session is funding for transportation. This has been a perennial issue since Jennifer and I took office, and there have been a lot of ideas put on the table, and some have been adopted. We've made a lot of progress in some areas of funding with the bond package that we passed, I guess, 2 sessions ago now. But there's still a need, particularly on the maintenance side. But if you're in Northern Virginia or Hampton Roads, the congestion is still there. And so we need to figure out a way to address those problems for Virginians.
And I would add to that, Chris is probably going to be a little more active on the Medicare expansion question, being on appropriations and HWI, but I've been pretty involved with the healthcare exchange issue. We've already had some action there with the governor's healthcare reform commission. They had put forward their recommendations on what we should do last year, recommending that we do adopt a state exchange, and I put forward one of, I think, 6 bills that would have implemented in some form or fashion their recommendations. I think we will need to act quickly on that because there are certain deadlines that we run the risk of missing. The first would be there is federal funding available if you apply for it by a certain date. But more importantly, the federal government needs to see that a state is taking steps to implement their exchange, and the exchanges have to be up and running, I believe, by January 1st of 2014. So there is some concern that we might already be a little bit behind. And while we have recommendations for a framework, we've seen, particularly in this last session, that if we rush on very complicated issues, we make mistakes. So there are a lot of people looking at that to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a position where we either have to rush or we default to a federal exchange. I would add on transportation that it's not just Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads that we need to address. And Central Virginia and the rest of Virginia tends to get lost in the conversation, but people are already starting to see some of the ramifications of the lack of funding that we have in some areas. I mean, you drive down the street, you see the medians, the grass is pretty tall. There's a reason for that. But I think, I'd like to say this will be the year that we finally solve that problem, but it is going to be an election year, so I think it'll be a challenge to completely solve it. Some other issues that we're going to be looking at, The governor has said that this is going to be his K-12 reform year. We don't know what that means yet. It seems like every year has had some sort of K-12 reform, but we're looking very closely at what that's going to mean. And another area that I've been working on is domestic violence. And a report recently came out that showed Virginia is too high on the list of states where the most women are killed by men through violence. And I've put forward a bill every year, I think, since I got elected, to try to increase the penalties for stalking and to make it a felony to stalk someone in violation of a protective order. Every year that passes the courts committee. Every year it doesn't make it out of appropriations because that's not quite the priority. And since then, there have been at least 3 very high-profile murders that may have, I don't know that they would have been, but may have been prevented if that bill had been in place. So that issue will be back this session. And, you know, it's a budget amendment year, so I'm sure once we get the new budget forecasts, there'll be some tweaking of the budget around the edges.
Yeah, Jennifer has her purple on because it's October. I believe October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yes.
So when you see people wearing their purple pins and ribbons, that's what that means.
That's right.
But we do have a couple of deadlines coming up. We have some filing deadlines coming up, but the governor, back on the health issue, has to submit a blueprint on exchange by November 15th. And so we'll have a little bit better indication of where the governor is on that issue, as well as the first part of December is when the governor releases his budget amendments that Jennifer referred to. And that, again, is a good roadmap for what the priorities are from the executive branch. And then, obviously, as co-equal branches of government, the legislative branch will get to weigh in on that.
Will the November election affect the healthcare exchange issue in Virginia, or not?
Now, that deadline that I referred to is a hard deadline.
Yeah.
And Secretary Hazel, I think, should really be commended. He's done a great job marshaling resources and people who really know what's going on in terms of federal reform and how it affects Virginia. And I think they'll have a very reasoned and well-informed recommendation for the governor so that he can make a decision that's in the best interest of Virginia. It's not something to be taken lightly. Jennifer referred to defaulting to the federal exchange. There are a growing number of people who think that's what we should do, and I think that's where one of the points of debate will come, whether it's something Virginia should run, whether it's something that the federal government should run. People who are opposed to the Affordable Care Act, people who want to repeal so-called Obamacare, believe that if enough states default into the federal program, that the federal government is just not ready and capable of processing and handling that amount and that volume. So it will be somewhat of a shock to the system and stall things from being implemented. That's one strategy that's being put out there, and it's, again, the politics of healthcare are certainly right below the surface in terms of the policy as well, and so we'll have to wrestle with some of those points.
And I would, one of my biggest frustrations has been that the policy behind the exchange has been sort of buried in the politics over how you feel about Obamacare. But what I like to remind people is state exchanges existed before Congress ever started debating Obamacare. The first one was established in Massachusetts under then Governor Romney. The second one in Utah, which is not exactly a bastion of liberalism. It was a conservative idea, and even as recently as a couple of months ago, William Frist, the former Senate Majority Leader, outlined how exchanges are a good idea. They are designed to help individuals and small businesses who do not have the market power to negotiate the big, rate discounts on their health insurance rates. It gives them a marketplace where they can go and get a better deal and get more information on what health care is available to them. So particularly if you don't like the idea of expanding Medicaid and expanding more government-run health insurance, you should love exchanges, because exchanges open the market for more people to get access to private health insurance. But again, most of these policy debates have not been held over the past year because too many people get wound up over whether or not Obamacare should be repealed. And I'm hoping that once the November 15th arrives, that we will actually start to look at the policy and say, is this a good idea that will help Virginians get more access to affordable health care?
You've heard the big insurance companies say they just want to know what the rules are, and so much of the rulemaking has not occurred yet. Secretary Sebelius's office has to still promulgate, I would say, hundreds of rules on point. So they're perfectly capable of existing in a framework once they know what the rules of the game are. The hospitals have been fairly supportive of exchange and the Affordable Care Act, in part because of what Jennifer mentioned, because of what they do in terms of charity care. And people coming to the hospitals, primarily the ED or ER, without any coverage and being served and being treated and cared for at a very high cost to the hospital. So the hospitals see it being a very beneficial thing. There are a whole lot of other Virginians out there who have different opinions. So we're going to kind of put all of those together and try to come up with the best solution for Virginia.
Big challenge with a short session.
Yes.
That's right.
Big challenge with the session being just a 46-day session that's scheduled, and transportation, and perhaps uranium mining or not, and as well as other issues. So although things work so much quicker here at the state level than at the federal level, it's hard to see all those issues getting a ample time for discussion in 46 days.
When you start to add up those major subject matters of healthcare and transportation and K through 12 and higher ed and natural resources of the uranium mining, then you basically have one major issue a week. If you have 6 or 7 weeks of session and then you crunch that down, it doesn't allow for a whole lot of time. That can be a negative, but I think it also works in our favor because we can weed out some things quickly that aren't beneficial and come to some reconciliation on the big issues because we have the deadlines. I think Virginians like the fact we're part-time and have to have real jobs and go back to the community. So,
well, and I would add to that, what a lot of people don't realize is work on these issues does not begin on the first day of session. We work year-round through our commissions, through interactions with the governor's office. And so I would encourage your viewers that if you have opinions on these issues, do not wait until the second week of January to call your legislator and let them know. Do not wait until the day that the bill is heard in committee. You should really call or email or write them now. Because we're in the process of getting our bills drafted. We're in the process of making up our minds on these issues. And a lot of times, by the time we walk into the committee meeting, we've already decided how we're going to vote. So if you want to be part of the process, start right now.
You can go to the website, legis.virginia.gov. If you don't know who your representative is, you can put in your address. You can look up legislation, and you can find out the meeting schedules, off session and on. And that's a great tool and resource for your viewers.
Yes, so let's make sure that people say that address once more, Chris.
legis.virginia.gov.
Very good. Let's get them there. And if they have some other issue that's not maybe one of these high-profile issues that they would like to have one of you or their own delegate or senator introduce, they really should be having that conversation now, too.
They should. A lot of times we'll get calls from people who think the only way to solve their problem is through a bill. And often as we walk through the process, we realize there's already a process in place to fix it, and we'd rather figure that out now than in January.
Right. Any closing word, Chris? Jennifer?
Well, David, I just thank you and your viewers and Blue Ridge PBS and all those who support your station and this program for allowing this opportunity to speak to Virginians.
And I just remind them, sometimes we get a little bit of election fatigue. We have an election every year, but it's very important that people be part of the process. We are government by, of, and for the people. So government is only as good as the people's participation. And we hear an awful lot of people who either praise or complain about government, but when you really push down to it, it's only going to be as good as you let it be through your participation.
Well, thanks to the two of you, and thanks to our viewers, and we'll look forward to having you back on again.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, promoting the free enterprise system to enhance economic competitiveness. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.